Before we get started, I'd like to thank you all for 554 subscribers as of this time. Thank you. So keep on going with Your Silly Dream by Piter on AO3, read by Lily6645. This fic may include suicidal thoughts. That is your warning. Chapter 45. Homeless, not local vigilante fights villain and steals evidence. Summary: the big fight against Stain. And Izuku may or may not steal some weapons from the man. Oops! Izuku pants as they continue to dart through the back streets of Hosu, Todoroki right behind him. If it had been Musutafu, it'd be no problem. Izuku was pretty sure he could navigate most of his own city with his eyes closed. Hosu, though, not only was it hard to navigate, but chaos filled the air, along with the smoke, of course. Izuku should have been crying. Normally would have been crying. So why wasn't he? Was it because he was focused on finding Ida? Was he finally adjusting after almost a year of harrowing events? Had he simply cried himself out for the day? Had the hole in his chest simply grown too large? Wait. Izuku pivoted to the right, following Todoroki. He felt his heart drop to his feet. The hero killer, in all his glory, stood tall in the alley. His hand was right above his head, blade poised straight down. The vigilante could feel a shiver travel through his body. Ida laid motionless on the ground. He could see Todoroki stiffen beside him, and Izuku knew. He muttered, be asking himself the same question. Were they too late? Can you ice blast him from here? Maybe. It's risky to do without knowing Ida's condition. Todoroki pointed out. Stain's arm tensed, and Izuku knew they couldn't afford to wait anymore. He whipped out the knife from his hoodie pocket, chucking it forwards with all of his might. He'd done it a few times for fun and to practice, never like this. Never when it actually meant something. He almost expected it to miss, like he always did when it came to the important things. Most would claim coincidence, but Izuku knew himself, and he knew he would miss. So imagine his surprise when it buried itself in Stain's shoulder, buying the split second Todoroki needed to aim and fire. Literally. If not for Ida being in imminent danger, Izuku would have smiled at the use of the other teen's left side. He really had grown. Stain leapt back to avoid the flames. At the same time, the vigilante and hero-to-be surged forward. They should be able to just grab Ida together, and there was another man propped up against the wall. There was more than one person. They couldn't carry them both. Neither he nor Todoroki had the strength enhancing quirk. Were they seriously going to have to face the hero killer? The man that had killed 17 pros and injured 24 more beyond repair? Todoroki? Yahoo! How? Ida gasped, voice trembling as he gazed up at them. At least he wasn't dead then. "Don't worry, Ida. We're here to save you," Izuku reassured the boy. "Ida, get up," Todoroki muttered. All he received was a twitch of Ida's fingers. I can't. It must be his quirk or something. I've been paralyzed since he cut me." Izuku recalled the news channel that had been playing during his brief break at Hawk's place. According to the reporter, what Ida was saying checked out. His quirk definitely had something to do with cutting. So Izuku would just have to avoid that. How hard could it possibly be? "You two get out of here. This has nothing to do with you." "How noble of you, helping this false idol in the mask." Stain snarled, slowly tearing Izuku's blade out of his shoulder and slipping it into his belt. Damn. He needed to stop losing his knives. These things are expensive. Maybe he should start digging around instead of purchasing. Not the time. "I understand as a vigilante and a future hero. You think it's your job to save him." The words were spoken with venom dripping from each syllable. "However, it is my duty to purge the world of these false heroes. Ida Tenya will never be a true hero. It's best to rid of him now." "But..." "No. When your friend challenged me, it garnered the weaker of us would be called. Whether you join or you allow me to finish what he began." Slowly, the hero killer brandished a blade, manic grin etched upon his face. "So what will you two do?" Izuku had forgotten what it was like to truly fear someone. It had been since Kachan? No, it had been since Endeavor punched him into that building. As his throat clammed shut and his heart raced, however, he realized that no matter what he forgot, that what details went fuzzy, no matter what he overcame, the body would remember. In scars long shut and faded, the way his nerves felt frayed and raw, the feeling he was drawing in a hole with nothing to latch onto, the way his very bones ached from the force of his anxiety. "Just go, damn it! It's not your problem. I told you, it has nothing to do with you two, especially you, Yahoo." He watched as a stray tear joined the puddle of blood below Ida. He clenched his fists, wrapping his right hand around his baseball bat. "Why the hell do you want to be a hero in the first place if you truly believe that?" Izuku snapped. "There's a lot someone needs to tell you, but it'll have to wait. Right now, me sticking my nose where it doesn't belong?" He thought of the little boy in the train, of Hawks and Mirako, of all the people he'd saved. "That's what being a hero is!" Izuku ignored the wide-eyed look he saw behind presented with from the paralyzed teen. Instead, he shared a moment of eye contact with Todoroki, nodding, before they both turned to Stain. "Hold him back while I grab the dude?" Izuku whispered, Todoroki nodding in confirmation after a second of hesitation. The other teen must have realized it was a smart thing to do. He would be far better for stalling due to his quirk. Plus, due to Izuku's recent decision of wearing shorts, he had less exposed skin. Stain laughed all the harshness of Bakugos and bitterness of Shinsos. It was odd, knowing someone and suddenly seeing them, even in the worst circumstances. It gave Izuku an odd sense of calm. After all, the hero killer was not some divinity raining wrath down upon those he deemed unfit. He was flesh and bone, memories and emotions. He too had been someone's child once. He was only man, just as Izuku was. Todoroki took a breath before shooting a beam of fire in an instant. Simultaneously, the vigilante darted to the side of the alley and beside the bleeding man. He would hear the hearsay, something hazy, but Izuku hearing hadn't been the best since the sports festival, and this man was on his left side. Hopefully, it wasn't too important. The other teen seemed to catch a hint, simply stalling for Izuku to move the pro next to Ida rather than in the crossfire. As he led the man down, he could hear Todoroki grunt in pain, causing him to look up. Two blades had buried themselves in Todoroki's arm, and Stain was rapidly approaching through bits of ice chunks. "You blocked your field of vision with an opponent who's faster than you. Rookie mistake." Izuku leapt forward just as the villain neared the blood dripping down from the wound. The other teen probably could have gotten Stain away from him, but, well, Izuku wasn't just going to leave him fighting alone. He cracked his bat against Stain's face, hitting the spot where the normal person's nose would have been. He can see the criminal's eyes widen before they both fly back due to the force of a fiery outburst. Izuku winced at the pain, but was snapped back into focus as something warm and wet gushed over a scrape close to his knee. He attempted to run, to get up and scramble away. He couldn't move. He couldn't move! In a world as corrupt as the one we live in, we need all those with a true heroic calling to remain as plentiful as can be, Stain said lowly, blade right next to Izuku's throat. Behind him, he could just barely make out Todoroki, face horrified and body stiff. He couldn't move. Was Todoroki frozen too? "So, for now, I will allow you to blossom and flourish. Your friend and that hero, however, they must be purged." "Keep your hands off them!" It was more of a mutter, with his tongue and jaw far too heavy to move completely. It seemed like he got his point across, though. It was futile anyways, as Stain charged at Todoroki. He shook himself out of the hollowing. He needed to strategize, to help everyone live. Stain could paralyze people. Fact. Izuku was paralyzed without having been cut. Fact. Therefore, despite the original assumption, the man's quirk couldn't involve cutting. It must be the blood. He grimaced as Todoroki continued to dodge, nearly getting hit or licked, even over and over again. To his surprise, after only a minute, his body actually tensed. Especially, he tried to move his fingers and was rewarded with a twitch. Ida and the pro, however, stayed motionless, aside from the rants of a madman. Damn you both! I've taken the Ingenium name, the legacy. I need to avenge my brother. The hero killer is mine. That's odd. I never recall the old Ingenium with that look on his face, Todoroki retorted. It seems your family had a dark side like mine. Within the next minute, Izuku is able to push himself up and grab his trusty weapon of choice. The bat was charred, but hey, it would do for now. As the villain attempted to plunge his blade into the paralyzed hero's sternum, Izuku sprung forward and managed to get another solid hit in with his bat. Yahoo! Todoroki shouted in surprise, quickly dodging the off-kilter hero killer. It's your blood! He needs to ingest it. Then he can paralyze you. It does time out, though. Shouldn't I have been the first to be released then? The pro began, quickly interrupted. Yahoo! Dodge left! Izuku quickly complied, avoiding a beam of flames. I was attacked first, yet I can't move a muscle. I have 3 theories, Izuku called back, dodging the quick knife swipes aimed for him. His quirk might be less effective the more people he has under it. Or maybe the amount ingested has a play on how it works. Izuku jumped over a path of ice, throwing a piece at the hero killer. He smirks as it hits the villain's face. Third, it might be our blood types. If that's the case, I'm type B, the pro muttered out. I'm type A, Ida adds. And I'm type O, Izuku finished. The hero killer skidded backwards, digging a blade into the ground to stop himself. Wow, you figured it out. Bravo. Knowing that doesn't really help us, though. I thought we could quickly take the other 2 out of here and let my father deal with this when he finally shows up. But he's too fast. He can dodge both my quirks. I'd have to leave myself unguarded and vulnerable. So instead we keep stalling until Endeavor and the other pros arrive? Exactly. Izuku gave the beat-up teen a once-over and sighed. I'll need to get you close. We've lost way too much blood. Just support me from behind. That's risky. It's the best we've got, Izuku thought for a moment. I've been in the field longer, and I'm a grown adult. Just trust me. We don't have another viable option. Izuku loved lying sometimes, especially when Todoroki relented and backed away. 2 against 1. This won't be easy then. The hero killer's gross-looking smirk creeped across the expanse of his face until it filled his face. Izuku was sure he'd seen it in his nightmares. If they managed to get through this, Izuku had never really gone against someone with raw speed and agility. Muggers and petty thieves, sure, but never this. He screamed in pure frustration as the blade finally sliced into his calf of his right leg. The resulting cut, long and deep, it almost matched the one on his left leg. Funnily enough, he felt his muscles freeze in pain, and he could only watch as the man's blade sliced a large arc too fast for the ice and fire. Has anybody told you that you rely too much on your quirk? It makes a sloppy fighter. Get away from him! Ida burst from the ground, engines propelling him forward and delivering a strong kick to the hero killer's ribs. Ida, Todoroki acknowledged, but Izuku hurried under the calm. He heard the tremble. Was the teen's figure shaking? Him and Bakugo would get along if the blonde ever gave Todoroki a chance. The Bakugo Izuku knew would never dream of it. But sometimes Izuku chose to be optimistic. Yahoo! Todoroki! This has nothing to do with either of you. I apologize. Are you serious? Izuku grumbled to himself. And thank you, but I will not let you shed any more blood for me. The hero killer scoffed, eyeing the wall his blade was currently buried into as a hand held his ribs. Don't attempt to be heroic now. One's nature doesn't change in a matter of minutes. You are nothing but a fraud who prioritizes himself above all else, and that is all you'll ever be. Don't listen to this murderer, Ida. No, he's right, the teen murmured. But that doesn't justify his action. You're in the way, Stain snarled. Todoroki gasped as the knife flying at him. In a pointless effort, he raised an arm, but Izuku could see it. He'd be too slow. The green-haired teen attempted to jump forward, but found himself frozen and stiff. Thankfully, Ida had snapped out of his downward spiral and thrown himself in front of his classmate. He's just after me and the Ida kid. Damn it, just get out of here, kid. The pro begged Todoroki. Izuku loathed being paralyzed, unable to assist against the barrage of attacks. Look at him. Something changed, Todoroki stated. He wouldn't let me leave, even if I wanted to. He's getting desperate. Ida didn't respond to the question. Instead, can you regulate your temperatures? Not well with my left side, but yes I can. Todoroki and Ida scooted backwards as the villain continued to miraculously approach. Ida yanked the pro behind him. Freeze my leg without blocking the exhaust. Why would I? Just trust me. I know it's hard right now after all I've done, but please. Izuku jerked up as he felt the paralytic effects wear off. He saw Stain crashing down. Ida got into position before Exebro burst. But would it be enough? The vigilante forced himself up before sprinting up a column of ice full speed. He didn't slip, didn't hesitate, didn't have room for mistakes like that. Not if he wanted to reach Stain at the same time as Ida. A way to hopefully ensure their victory. He prayed the ice was long enough. Turned out it was unnecessary, as another ice blast was added to the end, giving Izuku just the boost he needed. As Ida's leg smashed against the villain's lower half, Izuku's own fist pursed itself into his face. He can feel the serial killer's head crack against the brick wall behind them. Izuku twisted, pulling out his small backup knife, because you never knew, and jammed it into the wall. While his shoulder hurt like a bitch, he wasn't skewered by a spike of ice, so he counted it as a win. He removed it and dropped carefully the rest of the way, rolling on impact. He'd have to thank Eraserhead for teaching him that one day. He jogged over to the other two teens, wincing at the sight. The hero killer deserved it, every bit of what he got. But damn, that guy was beat up. Let's tie him up, Izuku muttered. Anyone have restraints? I do, the pro hero muttered, still barely managing a twitch. Yahoo! While I do not condone vigilantism, you kinda just tried it. While I do not condone vigilantism, Ida repeated, glaring, I am grateful for your help. You're normally never in Hosu, and yet you located me and helped me anyways. For that, I am in your debt. Ida bowed his head, causing the hero on his back to squawk in fear as he almost fell. It wasn't a problem, really. You don't owe me anything. I'm just glad your guys are okay, Izuku said sheepishly, shoving his hands into his pockets. I have to thank you as well, Todoroki broke in, dragging the tied Stain with him. I would never have used my flames if not for you. I wouldn't have ever been able to take this internship. So, thank you. And sorry about your hoodie. Guys, really, it's fine, Izuku whispered, attempting to shrink into his patchy and slightly charred hoodie. I'm glad that I could help, though. He opened his mouth to say more, and yet his lips stayed sealed as something clung to his shoulder before his feet left the ground. In a blink, or so it seemed, it was back and sprawled across the ground. He blearily glanced up, goosebumps forming all across his body at the scene in front of him. He's been grabbed by a Nomu. Fact. The hero killer saved him after they just fought and killed the Nomu. Fact. If he thought the man was scary before, that was nothing compared to him without the cloth covering his skin around crimson eyes. Of course, it was a very short moment before he was engulfed by the flames, and now rested on the ground as a charred chunk of flesh. So Izuku did the logical thing. He grabbed as many small blades as he could, then sprinted away from the voice calling his name. Izuku stared blearily out of the window, awaiting his stop. God, and he thought the ride to Hosu had been awkward. Of course, that was before he was bloody and burnt, carrying weapons in his pockets and that jingled with each bump. No one had called the heroes, at least. Yet. God, he probably jinxed it with his luck. He numbly stood up as Musutafu was announced and stumbled out. He didn't try to parkour or even run, not when he felt like he'd faint at each small tilt of his head. Blood loss was an annoying thing. When he finally crawled back into his chosen abode, he didn't patch himself immediately. No, he filled Stroke's food and water, then played with him a little. How could he resist that little face? The process of stitching and cleaning himself up honestly could have been worse. It was better than his injury from the earthquake months ago. At any rate, he sent Uraraka a quick message from his before he passed out. 2:47. Wherever you hear, on the news layer, no, I'm fine. Just splurred, turned, and find pass out in my. Izuku plugged his phone into his portable charger and proceeded to pass out. That is the end of chapter 45 of So Keep On Going With Your Silly Dream by Piter on AO3. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this, please go support the original author, link in the description below.